let's set game 2 aside maybe. We're just going to forget about that part. The rest of this series, it has been awesome. Forget about hoop heads. This is for sports fans, this series right here. Let's just take a look at how we got to this moment because it has been excellent. The Pacers, they went up 2-1 in the series despite leading for just over 20 minutes. What? Through 3 games. That's after stealing game 1 on Haliburton's winner and taking game 3 thanks to a bench dominant performance and then another fourth quarter comeback. If game 3 was wearing down SGA, then game 4 was preserving SGA. OKC did just that. He had 15 points in the final 5 minutes and 35 in the game to tie the series up. He became the 4th player to score 30 in 3 of his first 4 career finals games all time. And that brings us to tonight, game 5. The winner of a series tied 2-2 has gone on to win the series 74% of the time in the finals. Here was SGA yesterday at media availability.
It's harder to win the way we played last game over the course of time. And we got to correct that if we want to come out on top. Yeah, we're grateful, thankful. We did enough to get a win, but we're not trying to rely on the way we played last game. We need to be better, and we're going to be better.
You don't really get the right to flush games. You got to learn from everything and watch the film and see where you can get better in every area. So, yeah, game 4 didn't end the way we wanted it to, but the biggest thing is you can't let one spiral into 2. You know, you can't take the disappointment of that game and let it be a snowball effect.
Brian, I think we maybe came into this series, and I don't want to speak for everybody, thinking that there was a gap between these two teams.
I did.
And then what did we learn in game 4?
You know, I really thought the team that would win game 4, I would be sitting here saying they're going to win the series.
Yeah.
I can't say that because I really think they're really, really tight. These two teams are really, really close, and this city is on edge. These teams are on edge. Despite coming back with home court advantage, they don't feel super overconfident because they know how good the Pacers are. When I talk to people from the Thunder, they compliment the Pacers. When I look at the Pacers, I tell you that they have not lost back-to-back games since early March. That's over 40 games. That's half a season. Wow. And, you know, I can't say enough about how these two teams have proven to be dead even so far. So I really don't know how the series is going to go, and that's my ultimate compliment that I can play. And I really think coming into tonight's game, it's going to be about who can manage fatigue. This series has been about managing fatigue. It was the Pacers who won the energy game in game 3. That's how they got ahead. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and the Thunder won the energy game in game 4. Look at how they reduced his minutes in the first quarter. They reduced how much times he brought up the ball up the court. Strategy, fatigue, nerves, everything hinges on, you know, individual baskets. This is what, if you're a sports fan, if you're a basketball fan, this is exactly the kind of finals you dream about.
You know, I'm apologize to his dad because I'm changing his name to SG Amazing. Like he's been amazing the whole playoffs, especially in the fourth quarter. He reminds me of baseball closer in some of these games. 15 of the last 16 points. Come on.
Yeah.
Like on the road, put the team on his back. Clearly, if they win, he's the MVP. But he's been doing this the entire playoffs, and they desperately needed him. I walked in that locker room after the game, and there was just this sense of relief. And he's the one that got him there.
And he had no ego about what needed to be done to manage that fatigue. Usually we see him play the entire first quarter. They subbed him out. That's not something we see very often, but it worked. What changed down the stretch, Chiney?
Look, in the NBA Finals, there'll be a moment where you feel like the season is on the line, your back is against the wall, and you're paging the MVP to show up. And guess what? He did exactly that. He answered that call in grand fashion. And the way he was able to be productive late, particularly in the last 5 minutes, was targeting Aaron Nesmith. There they forced a switch, and now he's just waiting. He's playing the game. You're on an island in the mid-range, and he's waiting for you to put the hand in the cookie jar and draw a foul. But this next possession shows how tremendously skilled this man is. The MVP SGA again forced a switch. Here he gets the ball. You're on an island. Everyone disappears. He's playing once like he was growing up in the backyard. But this time, look at the pivot. Advanced move, forced the foul. these are the numbers that we're talking about when we say clutch performer. In Game 4, 15 points in the final 5 minutes. He was 3 for 4 versus Neesmith in that same frame. Scored 9 points against Neesmith, the most we've seen in a one-on-one scenario in that frame. So SGA, I was waiting. I was like, okay, it may not be like a dunk. It may not be a three, but it is perseverance and also consistency that has really separated him.
It's still the moments that legacies are made of. But Brian, when we were watching those clips together, it's J-Dub that's bringing the ball up the court so that Shea can set the screen so that he can pick his mismatch.
I got people that I really respect talking about how he reminded them of Scottie Pippen in this game.
Wow.
Because if you remember the way Pippen played, he was just a beast on the defensive end because of his great size, could defend all across the court, and he could bring the ball up the court, kind of be a point forward. J-Dub brought the ball up the court 25 times in this game. He'd never done that all season. They called on him to do this when they're down 2-1 on the road. And then at the end of the game, when the ball went back into Shea's hands, the reason they got Neesmith on to Shea all those times, they were running the two-man game with them. So first he was the ball handler, then he was the screen setter, and he scored 27 points along the way. That is a genius level performance. This is what the idea of this is where we're going to go with this Thunder team going forward. SGA and J-Dub. That's what they want to have, that kind of power in these kinds of type of games.
Can I tell you something? This is what's weighing so heavily on me. And when I tell you it's weighing heavily on me, it's weighing too heavily on me who I should pick in this Game 5. Are we going to get the J-Dub that showed up in Games 1 and 2? Or are we going to get the J-Dub that shows up in Games 3 and 4?
Let me say this. You know that Rick Carlisle spent the last 3 days because the thing that the Pacers do, they pressure. They pressure the ball. The reason they put J-Dub on the ball was because the pressure they put on SGA. So I would expect tonight, if they try to go back to that same strategy,
absolutely,
they will see a new level of pressure that J-Dub hadn't seen before in the series.
And the keys are actually 3 Ds, starting with 1, J-Dub and his drives. Now we're going to do an experiment. All right, Mr. Matt, let's start the clock. Here we go. 3, 4, 5. 5.8. There it is, 5.8. That felt like an eternity. That's how long J-Dub had the ball in Game 4, his highest possession length, touch length, and that's because he was the primary ball handler, and it worked out. Watch this. He was great off of drives. They actually used SGA as a ghost screener to free him up to go to his left. SGA's like, the ball's not coming back to me. Perfect lay with the left. And on this possession, you actually have SGA in the dunker spot not being used. He puts you in jail on your back. Now, that means it's mail time. He's going to mail in another bucket. Nice behind the back. But this is my favorite part. Isaiah Hartenstein, shout out to you. Nice screen so he can get to the lay. So J-Dub and his drives, 30+ in the last 2 games, very effective. Number 2 is the defense of Chet Holmgren, 2 for 12. That's what he's held them shooting. 0 for 4 on threes. But most importantly, if you think about it, 1 for 4 defensively in the fourth quarter. His defense has showed up. Look at the big men. They're engaged. This is the NBA Finals. Your centers are outside near half court defending. You love to see it. Now, he's so great at hawking the ball. Here's another screen. He stays with the ball. He knows his matchup is Turner. Caruso comes in to help, forces a deflection that leads to a steal. And then on this possession, Chet Holmgren, his defense. Now, y'all, he may not be the most coordinated, not always on point, but he's the most consistent when it comes to contesting. He falls to the ground. It does not matter. That is the defense that is amazing. And then lastly, on my cheat sheet, you have to dominate the hustle stats, the big stats, and they did exactly that in Game 4. 50 points in the paint, 43 rebounds, out-rebounded them by 10, 23 second chance points. That is the key for success for the Thunder if they're going to protect their home court here in Oklahoma City.
When that got into a tight game as we welcome Tim MacMahon to the set, howdy, Tim.
Howdy, Malika.
I love when he says that. It's one of my favorite parts of the day.
You're a country girl.
Well, I'm a horse girl, Shanae. I try to make, honorary. I appreciate that. When it comes down to the close games, I thought going into this series it would behoove the Indiana Pacers just because they've had more experience and we've seen these miraculous comebacks time and time again. So when things got close down the stretch in Game 4, it's kind of like, all right, what's OKC going to do about it? What stood out to you there that could translate to this Game 5?
Well, this is the script that the Thunder followed in the Western Conference semifinals against the Denver Nuggets. Blow a big lead, collapse in Game 1. Just get outplayed in crunch time in Game 2. Your back's against the wall, down 2-1. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander delivering in crunch time. And look, Tyrese Haliburton is having maybe the best individual clutch playoff run and season that we've seen, at least in recent memory. But again, Shea, he talked about it. He talked about embracing the moments, wanting those moments. He seized that opportunity. 15 of the Thunder's last 16 points completely took that game over in crunch time.
Yeah, I think one of the big things has been the three-point shooting of the Thunder. They were a prolific three-point shooting team during the regular season, to the point, I'm not even so much talking even about the makes. I'm talking about how many they got up per game. So look at this. 39 basically in the regular season. West playoffs, level, just like that. 37. In this series, the Pacers have taken them out of their offense. They're making them adjust. The other thing that's happening, some of their three-point shooting specialists off the bench are kind of getting played off the court. No Isaiah Joe, fewer minutes for Aaron Wiggins. And that's been a huge factor to have the Pacers crunch the numbers and get closer. In Game 4, the Thunder are 3 of 17. Yes, you pay attention to the 3. That's not good. The 17 was just as relevant. That's less than half what they averaged during the course of the season.
Yeah, but when you look at the shot making on Indiana here, it feels like Miles Turner is due to maybe start getting going here in the series. I know he's had his fingerprints all over this one defensively, Chiney, but offensively, what can he flip tonight?
Yeah, defensively, he leads the postseason in blocks, but offensively, he has to knock down that three-point shot. It's been suffering as of late. Alongside Pascal Siakam, I think the difference in this series is he's shooting around 28% from three. This is a team that has made the most threes, when it comes to the postseason.
Yep.
So that is a huge part of his identity, and I think it takes the pressure off of him. I showed you on this breakdown, Chet Holmgren doing a great job contesting. One thing I will mention about Karl-Anthony Towns, I love how he pump fakes, drives to the rim. Those type of inside-outside moments for a center will give you confidence knocking it down at the rim so that when you come to your three-point shot, it's automatic.
Tim, you've been covering the Oklahoma City Thunder all year long, and one of the things that I asked J-Dub that's on the cutting room floor of that conversation is, does he still get nervous? And he says, heck yeah, I get nervous, especially because every single game now is the biggest game I've ever played in my life. And he doesn't say that as a bad thing. It's human nature, right? He said, as soon as the ball goes up, I'm fine. But the moments leading up to it, that's when I kind of start to get in my head. I would too, right? Did you feel that way as a player?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
But what people said is if you're nervous, it shows you care.
Right.
And once the ball goes up, you feel so much better. But I do believe, like the last few games, remember what Jaylen Brown said? It's time for us to graduate. They're going through the fire together, and I think we're seeing his best version come on late.
What have you seen that makes you think, okay, this is the graduation?
I'm going to use a Marc Daigneault term that he uses a lot for this team, uncommon maturity. This is a young team, aside from the Ball Mamba. This is a young team, but this is not a team that gets rattled. How many times have you heard them say, get back to zero, get back to neutral? This is a team, they buy into the boring. They embrace the mundane details that keep them even keeled. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, it's newsworthy when he does a little bit like that to Nembhard, because it's like, oh, whoa. Shai showed a little
Tim
something.
Bontemps all the time on the pod.
Yeah, I'm not quite as even keel as Shai. And Bontemps ain't nearly as tough as Nembhard either. Oh! But the point being, dude, Shai doesn't sweat. Shai's facial expression doesn't change. When he's dominating crunch time in Game 4, it's a blank slate on his face. He's just a silent assassin. This team is so even keel. I think that helps them deal with the nerves. And Chet was talking today after shoot-around. He's asked about pressure. He's like, I'm not thinking about pressure. I'm thinking about what we have to do to win the game.
I agree that they're even keel, but this would be the game tonight for them to go out of neutral into full overdrive. Because Game 5, I know we're saying it every time, whoever wins Game 5, it's 80% or 73%. Yeah, their defense absolutely has to show up. That is their bread and butter. We know that Shai is going to give you 30 points. We know J-Dub is playing better offensively. But if their defense is what we have seen historically, converting the most points off of turnovers in the NBA, it takes that pressure off so you can be in neutral. So yeah, offensively cool, calm, and collected, but defensively go into overdrive, and that's what we've seen. Chet Holmgren had 14 points, 15 rebounds, or vice versa. All of them are making their bread and butter through the steals, through those hustle stats, and I think that is their identity that they have to rev up.
I'm on fire.